We're still trying to get all of the information as to what exactly he was doing during the time of the fatal incident.
A mechanic dies a horrific death on the runway after being sucked into a plane engine. This is Houston's WB News at 9. Hi, everybody. I'm Sherry Williams.
And I'm Alan Himberger. Thanks for joining us tonight. Well, that mechanic was killed on the runway at El Paso International Airport this morning. The tragedy is apparently the result of an engine repair job gone bad. The WB's Katie McCall live in our newsroom tonight with the details. Katie?
Alan, witnesses say that mechanic walked in front of one of the plane's engines where he was immediately pulled inside and killed. Tragedy struck on the runway at El Paso International Airport this morning as a mechanic working for Continental Airlines was sucked into the engine of a plane and killed. The man says the airline was performing a maintenance check on flight 1515 at around 9 a.m. Mountain Time, just before the flight was to depart for Houston's Bush Intercontinental Airport. The mechanic was employed by one of Continental's suppliers and was apparently walking in front of the engine of the 737 when the force of the engine's suction drew him inside, killing him. 114 passengers were on board that plane, as were 5 crew members. Most of the passengers boarded other flights to Houston. Just 2 dozen took the original flight, which finally made it to Houston just after 5 p.m., where the plane was met by Continental representatives. The NTSB is investigating this ground incident. A spokesperson for the board says the plane reported an earlier problem with the number 2 engine and that the engine cowlings were open. Continental says counselors are working with employees in El Paso as well as with passengers who may have witnessed the accident. Rumors at El Paso Airport that the employee was chasing after a baseball cap at the time have so far not been confirmed.
It's an unfortunate incident, and of course Continental Airlines, right now our focus is working with the victim's family and working with the authorities on both the local and federal levels as far as chasing baseball caps or anything like that. We have none of that information.
Continental has not said whether it has ever lost an employee to this kind of accident in the past. Continental's chairman and CEO Larry Kellner issued this statement. My fellow coworkers and I extend our heartfelt sympathies to the family and friends of the mechanic involved in this tragic event. Now, that mechanic's name is not being released at this hour because his entire family has not yet been notified. Live in the newsroom, Katie McCall, WB 39 News.
Will do it, Mike. Just minutes after a Continental jet takes off from Bush Intercontinental, the pilot calls for an emergency landing. Fox 26's Christina Garza is live at the big airport with more. Christina.
You know, this is officially the start of the 4th of July weekend, so it's been a very busy day here at Bush Intercontinental Airport. Today's incident, well, yes, it was a scare, but the good news is that it didn't affect and it's not affecting any other flights. A little over an hour after having taken off, passengers on board Continental Flight 744 to Cleveland were back at Houston's Bush Intercontinental Airport.
It was a situation with the plane where the pilot heard something, and in his judgment, he needed to come back and land it again.
That something turned out to be a fire in one of the plane's engines.
Fire crews responding to the scene saw that there was smoke coming out of the number 2 engine. The captain then elected to deplane the passengers.
The 155 passengers and 6 crew members were immediately taken away on buses and placed on another Continental flight. That flight left for Cleveland at 5 o'clock.
There was one passenger that was transported to Northeast Medical Center in Humble, but apparently the passenger had a pre-existing condition prior to boarding the plane.
As if fire in an engine wasn't enough, the plane also blew out several tires once it landed.
Part of the reason why the tires went flat was because of an overweight landing. The plane was estimated to have so much fuel burned by the time it landed at Cleveland, but because it had to turn around and land at Houston, it was overweight with fuel.
Now, we're just getting word that those passengers that left Houston here at 5 o'clock today have landed in Cleveland just moments ago safely. As for the cause of that fire, well, that has yet to be determined. We're live at Bush Intercontinental Airport. I'm Christina Garza, Fox 26 News.
New at 9, a tip to police uncovers human smuggling. 33 illegal immigrants from Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, El Salvador, and Peru were found in a Pasadena home this afternoon. Police arrived finding the windows boarded up and a woman allegedly hesitantly let police officers in. The 24 men, 7 women, and 2 teenage boys were found locked in 3 bedrooms and a bathroom. There was no air conditioning.
The immigrants did have access to bathroom facilities as well as water. Some of the immigrants arrived in Pasadena today. Some said they'd been in the house since Sunday. The immigrants were telling police that they'd only been fed once a day.
Police say an automatic assault rifle and a hunting rifle were also found inside the home. Both weapons were loaded.
Hazmat crews have been busy all morning trying to clean up an accident involving a tanker truck with chemicals on the LaPorte Freeway. It is such a big problem that traffic could be an issue for days. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Eyewitness News at 11. I'm Melanie Lawson.
And I'm Minerva Bettis. That accident caused a huge headache for drivers in Pasadena this morning. Eyewitness News reporter Laura Whitley is live on the scene to tell us how long it will take to get all those lanes reopened. Laura?
Minerva, the right lane on 225 East will remain shut down through the weekend. That's because hazmat crews still have a very unstable situation on their hands. That tanker truck is filled with hot molten sulfur that's kept at about 360 degrees, and they're worried that it could slip down the hill. It only took seconds for this tanker truck to flip on its side, but cleaning up the mess will take days.
Cleanup crews found out that the valves of the trucks were damaged and the sulfur is still in a liquefied state, so they're not able to offload the product. They're going to have the truck sit there at least 3 to 4 days for the sulfur to solidify.
Until that happens, this feeder road at 225 in Scarborough is, like the sign says, closed. And that means headaches for drivers and business owners.
I don't know what happened. It's like just a lot of traffic. I'm trying to detour around so I can go to work.
Well, none of my employees or myself can get to my business. We're right down the feeder road and the police won't let us in, and so we're shut down basically.
Glover worries a closure will hurt sales at his company.
Well, it can't be good for it. I can't have no customers can get there either. So.
And that only adds to the aggravation. The accident made the morning commute a slow one. Police blame the driver of a Chevy pickup that rear-ended the big rig, causing it to lose control.
Despite the damage done to the 18-wheeler, the driver was able to walk away. The driver of the pickup truck appeared to be intoxicated and was arrested for DWI.
However inconvenient, police say shutting down the road is about safety.
They're going to attach some cables to the wall to keep the 18-wheeler from rolling off. That's what the main concern is.
And with that right lane on the LaPorte Freeway remaining shut down through the weekend, drivers on their way home tonight may also encounter major slowdowns. So you may want to find another way around. Reporting live in Pasadena, Laura Whitley, 13 Eyewitness News.
And a train derailment just south of Pasadena put some residents in harm's way.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ford Atkinson.
And I'm Dominique Keith. That derailment happened this afternoon in the 11,000 block of Port Road.
Fox 26's Isaiah Carey is live with the latest. Isaiah.
Well, Ford, Dominique, the train that derailed is right behind me on the train tracks there. Now, it is owned by Union Pacific, and it overturned around 3 o'clock this afternoon near a very populated area. Now, the cars were coming from FMC in Bayport when 2 cars came off the tracks in the 5500 block of State Highway 146. The 2 cars that derailed contained a 60% concentration of hydrogen peroxide.
The 2 rail cars are 90 tons each, and each are carrying hydrogen peroxide. Right now they're using sand dikes to try to keep the spill and runoff to a minimum. And again, the main concern is that the train engine was carrying diesel fuel. And if the diesel fuel and the hydrogen peroxide become mixed, it can prove to be very highly volatile and combustible.
Now, Pasadena police say 2 workers involved were checked out and cleared. There is a shelter in place. Now, we don't mean a physical type facility. That means people in the area were told to close their windows, turn off their air conditioners, and remain inside. But so far, no injuries. The areas affected include Seabrook and Pasadena subdivisions. They expect to have the rails upright at about 10 to 10:30 tonight. And of course, if we get more information, we'll bring it to you live. Reporting live from the Seabrook Pasadena line, Isaiah Carey, Fox 26 News.
Once the fire is completely extinguished. Now, as far as part of containing the runoff, crews have used sand and have diked the ditches surrounding it to keep the runoff going, as well as using foam from foam engine trucks. Apparently, hydrocarbons are able to travel onto the water, causing the flame to spread, but because of the sand dikes and the foam, water runoff has been to a minimum.
Martin, still no reports of any injuries?
There have been no reports of any injuries. We've had no reports of anyone going out into the communities to treat anybody of feeling dizzy or nausea. I think one of the media had asked me earlier, we had 125 firefighters from the various fire agencies, which included the Pasadena Volunteer Fire Department, LaPorte, Deer Park, and Seabrook Fire Departments.
Martin, any idea how dangerous any of these chemicals are?
At this point, again, we're waiting for the EPA to tell us about the air quality, but the chemicals that were being processed in this warehouse are common household insecticides that you use to treat your basic common household bug problems.
Who's in charge of setting out this?
Now, getting to this point has taken a very massive effort, and it began long before the sun came up. Smoke rising from the charred warehouse, still burning, but an improvement from the scene hours earlier as balls of flame shoot 50 feet in the air from the Controlled Solutions building.
There was only one employee, a manager, who was in another one of the buildings when he heard a loud explosion.
Chemicals used to make pesticides and other flammable materials like paper and wood fuel the flames for hours, stopping businesses at nearby companies.
It's not fun. We're very busy at the moment. Our industry's in a bit of a mini boom, so it hurts us a little.
As the power company secures lines stretching over the blaze, Pasadena firefighters get help from Seabrook, Deer Park, LaPorte, and several chemical companies. Although water helps douse some of the flames, emergency officials also worry about runoff carrying toxins into nearby creeks and streams.
They're trying to avoid as much runoff getting into the streets. They're trying to use the water. Just the fire is contained to the one warehouse area.
And now the fire, as you heard earlier, is contained inside of the building. They're going to use foam to get out the flames, but it looks like they'll be able to douse that for now. Again, Controlled Solutions is a company that mixes pesticides that are also then sold for residential use. Reporting live in Pasadena, Laura Whitley, 13 Eyewitness News.
All right, Laura, thank you very much. And as you heard in that live news conference, the chemicals being released into the air are common pesticides and herbicides, mostly used at home. Emergency crews say they are dangerous to breathe in, however. It's also why the fire departments are using foam and sand to try to stop that runoff water from going into any streams, rivers, or any other sources for contamination.
To the scene of that shooting this morning with a police officer and the civilian. Let's go to Southeast Houston.
This is HPD spokesperson Martin DeLeon. He's about to begin a press conference explaining the situation here. We'll go live to him now.
Approximately 9:45 Thursday morning, Houston police were called to a robbery in progress at a check cashing place on the 5700 block of the South Loop East. During the robbery, a Houston police officer and a civilian were both shot and killed during the robbery. The officer is a 20-year veteran currently assigned to Southeast Patrol. The female inside is 25 years old. Neither of their names are being released at this time. I do have suspect description for you. The shooter is described as a black male between 6 feet and 6 feet 2. He was wearing either a black or a dark blue racing jacket with red racing stripes down his arms. The other two suspects are described as black males in dark clothing. I was told that two of the suspects are in their late 20s and one of the suspects in his 30s. The suspects fled in a white Grand Am believed to be 95, 96 model. Last seen heading eastbound on the service road of the South Loop East. Possibly missing hubcaps on the passenger side and partial license plate believed to be the first letter S and D like in David. They were last seen heading eastbound on the South Loop East.
Can you tell us how this robbery started?
They're still under investigation at this time. We recall about 9:45 to a robbery in progress. Unfortunately, it ended with the death of an officer and a civilian person.
The civilian was an employee, as I understand. Do you know if it was a response to an alarm, or how was the officer called in?
I don't have that information at this time. I haven't heard that at this time. I just know that the female is a 25-year-old victim. Now, I was told that if anyone sees the car, has any information, to immediately call HPD Dispatch at 713-222-3131. You can also call the HPD Homicide Division at 713-308-3600 or Crime Stoppers at 713-222-TIPS. However, if you see something now, you need to get to our dispatchers immediately. That's calling 713-222-3131. There is a search going on for the suspects at this time.
Do you know the weapon used and how many shots were fired?
I do not know, but I do know that a witness did say that they saw the shooter with the gun in his hand.
Do you know if the officer fired his weapon?
I do not know how many people were in the store at this time.
Do you know if the officer fired his weapon?
I do not know at this time if the officer had fired his weapon.
Was it handgun? Did the witness know it was a handgun or shotgun?
Apparently the witness said it was some kind of a handgun, yes. But I don't know what kind of caliber, what kind of gun at this time. Katie? Well, we know that we've seen one person who's believed to be the shooter, but there were also two suspects with him at the time.
Right, and that's the shooter of both the civilian and the officer.
At this point, the witnesses only saw one person with one gun.
Where was you shot? How many times?
Okay, we don't have that information at this time, but both were fatally wounded. I don't have that, but I know he's a 20-year veteran with the Houston Police Department, currently assigned to Southeast Patrol.
Well, now tell us what area you're searching right now, because you have an active...
I'm sorry? We are currently searching the southeast area, all around this general area of southeast Houston.
Do you have surveillance video? Was there a surveillance camera in the checks cash building?
We're looking into that right now. We don't have that information. As far as the officer's marital status, I do not have that information either at this time.
Mark, was either the officer or the civilian able to make any kind of statements prior to passing on?
Unfortunately, both the officer and the civilian were dead when I arrived at the scene, so I don't know about any statements at this time.
Mark, just for clarification, the officer was shot outside or inside?
He was found outside of the store when I arrived at the scene. I don't know where exactly he was shot, though.
The employee was found inside?
The employee was inside, yes.
Was the officer's service weapon out, or was it in his holster?
I don't have that information at this time.
Did he have his Kevlar vest on?
I don't have that information, unfortunately. Again, this is all under investigation. Right now, we're wanting to get the suspect information out to y'all. Again, if you could just please get out to your viewers. The shooter is described as a black male between 6 feet 2 inches tall, wearing a dark blue or black racing jacket with red racing stripes. Last seen heading eastbound on the Loop 610 service road. He was with two other suspects described as black males in dark clothing. They're in their late 20s, two of the suspects I was told are in their late 20s, one in their 30s. Any information, again, if you see anything, please call us immediately at 713-222-3131. Our dispatchers will then relay that information to our officers right away.
Martin, is there a description of the car right now?
It's a white either 1995-96 Pontiac Grand Am, believed to have possible missing plates on the passenger side and possible partial plates, the letter S and the letter D, like in David. No, the hubcaps, either one or two hubcaps possibly missing on the passenger side. The partial plate is believed to be the letter S or the letter D.
The officer's family didn't notice.
I'm not sure at this time. That's why we're not releasing the name at this time.
We noticed that the chief and also the district attorney are here. Why are they here?
I can't speak for the district attorney, but if there's an officer killed in the line of duty, you know, we have concern for our fellow officers. We just want to make sure that we can provide any support needed to help with the investigation and apprehension of the suspect. Chief Bradford has also talked to the family of the victim as well. When an officer dies, that's very tragic for all of us, actually. That's why we're out here, just to make sure that we do what we can to catch the suspects.
You know if the officer was wearing a vest?
I don't have that information at this time.
Can you give us a preliminary sequence of events as they appear right now, as the facts appear right now? Do you believe that the civilian was shot first and the officer was trying to assist?
Again, all of that is still under investigation, but I do know that about 9:45 we responded to a robbery in progress call at a check cashing place in the 5700 block of the South Loop East. Again, we need your help in getting the description of the suspects out. If you have any information, please call dispatch immediately, 713-222-3131. Thank you very much.
Again, just wrapping up a live press conference with Martin DeLeon. He's a spokesman for the Houston Police Department to, again, reconfirm what we have is a robbery here which took place about 9:45 this morning. One civilian, an employee of the check cashing establishment, was killed along with a Houston police officer, a 20-year veteran we've now learned, who was responding to that robbery call. We'll bring you more details as they become available. Reporting live, Chris Adams, 13 Eyewitness News.